Your next career move could be the one you never imagined. Web3 nomads, everywhere jobs for anywhere people.
And we're back. Welcome back, everyone. I have a special guest. No, he's not a special guest. He's part of the furniture, just like I am. Hey, Dan.
Yeah. Good morning. Good morning. How are you?
Yeah, good. Thank you. I've got a new title. I've been promoted, or should I say I've been demoted within the ranks of Blockmates. I am now officially the PTSD master. It's been a very interesting few weeks. It's nice to see the markets do cool stuff. Obviously, BTC's been pumping. Rejected 25K yesterday. We went from full bull to full bear in literally 2.5 seconds. Very interesting to see. And obviously, post-traumatic stress disorder being at an all-time high. How about you, sir?
Well, I'm still living in mum's basement, as my title suggests. It's still incredibly cold here in England. I'm totally used to my Asian sun, and hopefully going to get some South American sun soon. But we'll save that story for another day, because from the news, it looks like Latin America is heating up, and so is Asia, which is some of the topics we're going to cover today, as well as the Blur airdrop, because that was absolutely massive. It printed so many million. If you were smart, like on Valentine's Day, you didn't need a date. You just needed to be a single Pringle at home in your basement, waiting for the care package to drop in order to like print 7 figures. So there's a lot of very happy people. But we'll cover that more. We'll cover like CZ shilling BNB season, BNB DeFi season. And then we'll have a look at a few other things. But all I want to know is, Mr. Andrew Saunders, when Arbitrum airdrop, because it's your turn, sir.
So you actually covered this in the newsletter, where you spoke about one of the topical issues right now is obviously, the value of airdrops. And I think I completely faded the Blur airdrop, just kind of got tired of all those airdrop threads and, hated that so much that it obviously affected my investment decisions going forward. And Blur obviously just completely kicked ass. And I think it's really going to do well. I mean, it's doing well already. I mean, there's so many of those that smart money's aped into this thing. And airdrops are in. If you're going to do something, do an airdrop.
but do the right one. Like be smart about it. So like if you look at someone like the top guys and the top wallets that actually printed 7 figures for it, they were literally just like drilling Blur like it was something special on a Friday night. It was ridiculous. So you got your boy Mackie Big Brother. So he's one of like the apes big G's, and like when you see his transactions, he's like buying and selling loads of stuff through Blur, and he was one of the biggest wallets. So he played it smart. And what's super interesting is the number one wallet. Yeah, check this. Yeah, the number one wallet who got the biggest airdrop made over $3 million in that airdrop. Now.
Wow.
It also looked like that wallet number 1 was connected to wallets number 2 and 3. So let's just say this person or this crew owns wallet 1, 2, and 3 in terms of the highest value of the airdrop. Now, could you imagine on the most romantic day of the year, you bin your missus off and you sit there and you print 10 million, 10 million or just shy of it, US dollars from a little airdrop. Now, could you imagine dumping all of that when Blur hit its all-time high at $1.20? Could you imagine that? Could you imagine the smell and the seething people who went long at like $1.15 to absolutely wreck them? How mad is $10 million, mate?
So what I found really interesting, just referring to from a price action perspective, is how Blur was literally going up only. And then Bitcoin rejected at 25K, and the markets almost 10x the reaction of downward movement because of that. It was actually something phenomenal to watch from a price action perspective, even from, you know, your most lowly shitcoin to, you know, something like Blur that just had all the momentum, and it just literally was a complete 180-degree turn. I mean, it was just unbelievable. And, you know, we went from full raging bull to full bear, and Twitter was like on fire. Everything was just like, I don't know, just I haven't seen something like that in a very, very long time. I think the last time I saw something like that was like in May of 2022. You know, like it was just, I don't know, it was just insane. And I think
have
that
you checked the markets this morning? Because there's so many things on my list right now that are absolutely pumping.
So this is the second part of this thing, and yeah, you're 100% correct. It's like, it's almost like yesterday didn't happen, and everyone's looking for an excuse to ape back in, and it's kind of like, this is what's going on right now. You know, is that I was actually in a meeting early this morning, and what came up in the meeting was that if you're experiencing X, Y, and Z from an emotional perspective, market attributed, you can guarantee that everybody else is feeling the same way. That's what happens in the market, right? Is that we get so sucked in to our own reality and our own emotional disposition, and we think that, you know, we're so special and we're so like amazing that nobody could ever experience all these like varied emotions that we experience. Well, guess what? Newsflash. Everybody's experiencing the exact same thing for the most part that you are. And that's the reason why the market is behaving the way that it is behaving. The market is a culmination of everybody behaving at the same time and doing the same thing. And as soon as you're feeling paranoid about something, I promise you, so is everybody else. And we all go into this like this little dance move where we all dump our bags, freak out, and you know, it's just what happens. And it's just so interesting to see that now, like, everyone's woken up fresh, or they kind of feel like the pain is over for now and they're aping back in. And I think we're going to see a lot of this for a while. As much as I'd like to see us go into a complete uptrend, I'm just not seeing it anytime soon.
Yeah, it's I know I'll load up some charts a little bit later, but do you want to? Let's pull up a few charts, just because I know we both running through some seriously bad hair day at the moment. Let me share my screen. Because we were talking about it, let's go to the Blur price action. So the Blur price action, let me know if you can see that.
Yeah, I can see it. Okay,
cool. So this is just the Bybit chart. Okay, so when Perps launched at 7 a.m. My time on the 15th. Look, so what's interesting is people were like, "Oh yeah, let's short it," coming down to here. There's like, "Whoop, no, we're gonna wreck you." So then people obviously started to go long. We had a short squeeze here, long squeeze here. Now, this is the most interesting wick right here on this candle here, because we ended up revisiting it over here yesterday, and I actually called this in one of the discords.
I remember seeing that. I saw you do that, and I was like, and then I looked at the chart briefly, and I was like, yeah, he's probably bang on here. This thing could very well bounce, and that's exactly what it did. I mean, it was pretty.
But it wrecked exactly the same point. So what's super fascinating to see is you've obviously got this. This is euphoria, disbelief, seething people like myself who completely missed out on the actual airdrop, because you sat there in disbelief. Like all these like monkeys were getting like $1 million, and I'm just there just commentating on it. But that was a wicked, and you can see by this green vector candle, this was like the market makers grabbing the liquidity, wrecking everybody who went short here, because the psychological level is $1, right? So it hits $1, you know, obviously people could go short, bam, wreckage. Goes up again, and like the market maker here rips it down, big stopping volume candle here. Consolidation. Whoop, we had like the USA Open here. Poof. Everybody's going long here, because on the deck screener chart, it peaked at $5. So everyone's thinking, oh yeah, we're gonna break out from this like bull flag or whatever. Go straight to $5. Whoop, nope. S&P had something else to consider, because we've got everybody going long here. Your liquidations down in this zone, boom, rip it down even further. hit this exact same point here, like about 83 cents, bounce up, and now what's going to happen here? Or right now, it's probably anybody's guess, but there is obviously like a bullish case for it. Rumors are like they're going to be having a raise at like $1.3 billion valuation. So that's something that's going to be very interesting to see come to fruition, which is ironically 10% of what OpenSea were valuing their obviously business or trying to raise for, because they did it on, oh, look, something's happening here. They tried to raise on a valuation of like 13.3 billion, which is just insane.
Just go to the, I think the really interesting thing about this airdrop, and like the whole narrative thing, like, or thesis, should I say, the whole thesis thing. So coming back to conversation that I had this morning around kind of like the human emotion and how we all share the same thing, is how everyone is looking for an excuse to talk about how relevant and important Blur is from a product perspective, right? So Blur is amazing because it's better than OpenSea, but how difficult is it to create a product that's better than OpenSea? Okay, it's an aggregator. Okay, now that's cool. So that's like a really valid argument in terms of, a culmination of all NFT markets on one platform and the liquidity to support it, which is obviously the biggest thing in any market, especially in the bear market. And so there's obviously a lot of positives around Blur. Realistically, however, is it really worth $1.3 billion? I don't think so. But because I got an airdrop, so this is the interesting thing, once again, coming back to the psychological aspect of things. Because I got an airdrop and I made myself 6 figures, I will now find every reason why the airdrop that I received is valid and gives the people who gave me that airdrop credibility in the space. Just see how interesting the psychological aspect of this is.
Yeah.
And then that company comes back and says, we want to do the following, evaluated at 1.3 billion. However they arrived at that point. How can those people who just received free money not agree with that and then support the market sentiment around it? I find it fascinating. I mean, obviously this is very much a philosophical discussion. It's just merely trying to understand the human element and emotion that goes into this whole process of airdrops. And we'll obviously expand on the whole airdrop thing. I know that you spoke about it in the newsletter, and just how airdrops really do kind of tweak the imagination and get people into action. I really find it fascinating.
Yeah, the real interesting thing is, like, this airdrop for Blur, it literally is just the beginning, because when you read like their Discord and some of the bits on their website, it's the next airdrop is set to be the biggest. So I was sitting there thinking, like, Jesus Christ, like, if that was, mate, if that was peanuts, yeah. Now, could you imagine what the next one will be like?
Correct. Yeah.
How insane is that?
It's masterfully played, right? Because, as I mentioned earlier on, 2 months ago, the only thing that you saw from influencers on Twitter were all these airdrop threads. Airdrop thread this, and how funny is that? Because they were 2 months off the mark, and the only airdrop thread that had any relevance in 2023 was actually Blur. But there is still the Arbitrum one, as you mentioned when we started this, and I'm of the opinion that Arbitrum, with an airdrop at any point in time in the next month or two, really set themselves up for something huge if they do that. Like, it is, I reckon it'll be unprecedented in the crypto space if they did an airdrop, because there's so much hype around it that when they do finally do it, it's just going to be insane, to the extent that I actually don't think anyone will sell, irrespective. That's my thought around it.
I'm gonna say that I believe that the Arbitrum airdrop. Now, I've got no idea how it's going to go. I don't know if they've got exchange listings or whatever. But if it goes anything like, I'm going to say it's going to go like Blurs, where you're going to get this sense of euphoria that just absolutely pumps the sugar sticks out of the price and then just gets absolutely wrecked before any other next leg up. Well, what's going to be super interesting about the Arbitrum airdrop is like what that token's actually going to be used for. Is it just going to be a inverted commas worthless governance token? Is it going to be the actual gas fee of the network, rendering Ethereum, irrelevant, which almost wouldn't make sense, but kind of would, because now they want to give their token some actual value. So it, I guess does something and it isn't just like some big airdrop scam. But yeah, it's going to be but what's going to be really interesting is Arbitrum have never done anything by the books. So how they're going to launch it, whether it's an airdrop, whether it's a care package, whether it's, I don't know, you got to do like a quest to unlock it, or you play a game and at the end of the dungeon is like the Arbitrum airdrop comes out like a nice gold treasure chest with, mythical anime girls and, donkeys and I don't know, whatever. It's going to be very interesting to see, man. Yeah. But you've also got a couple of other airdrops coming up as well. Now, this is the one that's probably everybody's forgotten about, but it's got the biggest narrative right now, and that's zkSYNC. So back in, I think it was like late 2021 or like early 2022, this is where all the hype for zkSYNC started to come. And it was set to be, I guess, like Blur, where it's going to be on the scale of Uniswap's airdrop, where people will make life-changing money. And as of yesterday, something happened with zkSYNC, and it's going to be interesting to see what they do with theirs. I'm looking forward to that one.
And so am I. I mean, I've spent very little time looking at, kind of like the gamification of the side of it, but I do know, obviously, a lot of our community members who are doing it, and it's kind of like become a full-time job for them. And I also know that they're going to make really good money doing it. So, it's kind of like some people choose to trade, other people choose to farm airdrops. And I know at least two that do really well on that front. So moving on from airdrops, I just wanted to also, from topical newsworthiness, is obviously this whole thing with the SEC this week. We had essentially the SEC coming after stablecoins and the rest of it, and now the SEC suing Do Kwon and the Luna guys, and it's just, I find it really interesting. As you know, the SEC can't imprison legally; they can just sue, which I find really fascinating, and that's a topic of discussion we can have another time. But it seems like there's a lot of activity going on from the regulatory perspective. CEO of Coinbase came out, I think it was yesterday, saying that effectively America is going to take a back seat in terms of being, now it's a technological hub, but very soon it won't be. And, enter Hong Kong, who also put out, I think the Department of Finance, they came out saying that they are looking to allow for the trade of cryptocurrencies and to essentially set up a cryptocurrency hub potentially in Hong Kong, which I find fascinating considering that, it's China related and the rest of it, but they're seeing value in the whole thing, much like Florida, in the States that sees value in cryptocurrencies from their mayor versus, other parts of the States where they just completely frown at it. So lots of developments from the regulatory, from the legal side of things. Obviously, it affects us in the rest of the world because at the end of the day, America is, the big boy in the room. But I really do think that America is going to be in a situation where they are going to be playing second fiddle to countries who take on, the blockchain crypto narrative and its benefits and runs with it.
Yeah, it's don't get me started on this whole SEC thing. So in one of the newsletters we did, we spoke about this. We spoke about like the stable coins and whatever. And like when you start like digging into it, it's what's going on. It's okay. I obviously don't know because I'm just an idiot with a laptop, just tweeting stuff. But it does look like there is something way bigger that's playing out here, and whoever wins the fight is going to profit massively. And you might have seen like the words Operation Choke Point 2.0 floating around Twitter, but it really does look like the US government is now trying to stop, like, it feels like they're killing innovation in the USA to some degree, but they're also going to stop those who are building in other countries kind of like by halting like their way of getting like a US bank account and whatever. And there was an Operation Choke Point 1 ages ago, and this was like to do with the US government, but they were going after like guns and all these other not so cool things. So it's interesting to see how they're going to go after this Operation Choke Point 2.0. And I really do think that Circle is positioning themselves to be in like the leading spot when it comes to stable coins. And whether this thing transfers over to like the US, CBDC or whatever is going to be interesting, because you got to think USDC right now, they've got their fund is also being held at BlackRock as well. And BlackRock has to go under regulations and they have to follow a set principle rules. So what they've done is they've positioned themselves smartly there. It seems like they're like the little snitch at school that tattles, right? And that's why you had all of this Paxos, BNB, BSC drama as well. In theory, what Paxos can do, they could actually fight against the SEC for it, but it seems like they're taking a back seat. We're like, yep, accepting what's going to happen, because there could be something going on behind the scenes as well that could make what they're doing pretty bullish. But I'm not going to say what, because I want to do a bit more research into that first. But if now, sorry.
No, carry on. Sorry, I'm interfering. My apologies. Carry on.
But what's super interesting is how China has now just like done a complete 360. You remember all that? It was like China FUD this, China FUD that, China FUD whatever. Now it's like China bullish, because China's they're opening up a blockchain research center over in Beijing. You've now got Hong Kong working to like allow for retail trading of cryptocurrency. So like China has done a 180. Then let's factor in the Latin Americans, because it's a beautiful place and we all like a desperado and a burrito. Arve's gone over there. You've got the I love El Salvador. Like, I would love to move there, because your boy, like the president, not only has he opened up like an office in Switzerland, but he's looking to open up a Bitcoin embassy in Texas. Like the land of steak, the land of cowboys are going to get a Bitcoin embassy. How mad is that?
Yeah, it is mad. And I think one of the other topical conversations that we've been having is, this different layer that's emerging on the Bitcoin network. I mean, we have to bring in Bitcoin, right? Considering it rejected at 25K and caused a whole lot of pain and suffering for so many people over the last 12 to 18 hours. And then we managed to have a meeting with someone and said, wait, there's definitely an L2 that could start being developed or is being developed on the Bitcoin network right now. Imagine that, bro. Like, eventually Bitcoin finds relevance not only in ordinals and NFTs, but a real L2. Imagine the smell.
Imagine if there already is one, but people aren't talking about it.
And this isn't conspiracy, guys. Like, this is something that is very, very possible in terms of the architecture that Taproot brought about. I don't know the the fundamentals around the technology, but this is very much a real thing. You can store an incredible amount of data on the Bitcoin network right now on those blocks. You could host your website if you wanted to, if you knew how to. I don't think anyone's spoken about this, and if they have spoken about it, it hasn't been very public. So you probably heard it here first.
Imagine if there was already a layer 2 on Bitcoin, but no one's talking about it.
Imagine
that. Imagine if you were stacking sats.
Oh my goodness. Moving on, because we don't really want to harp on about this one for too long. Let's leave a little bit of intrigue in the room. Why don't we?
But if you are in our Discord, go check out the Might Be Something channel if you've got access to it. I did put in the potential layer 2 that is already built over there, plus like Xverse, which is like a almost like a Bitcoin friendly wallet. You can now literally it's a no-brainer way of inscribing. Although I was trying to inscribe one of our apes. Mate, check it. I was trying to inscribe our ape yesterday, right? And it was going to cost $80. $80 to inscribe. This is why we need that layer 2. $80.
Interesting stuff. I like it. I like the fact that Bitcoin can be relevant in places that the maxis just really don't want Bitcoin to be relevant. But what they don't realize is that this is how Bitcoin transcends what it's currently doing. This is actually what it needs. I really believe that. And it'll be really interesting to see where it goes and how it develops. I just wanted to come back to the whole stablecoin thing because there's something that's really relevant around what CZ said, and that was that because like BUSD has basically come under attack, depending on what your perspective on the whole thing is, but from his perspective, he's saying that, well, imagine we no longer look to the dollar in the crypto space because of what's happening there, and we actually look at other currencies and other permutations of money within the stablecoin space as opposed to the dollar, and then also the role that algorithmic stablecoins have to play. We kind of wrote off the whole idea of algos. There's a lot of people who don't like them, but there's one very large elephant in the room, and it's called Frax. And Frax didn't flinch when all of this stuff happened last year. It's still in the room. It still hasn't flinched. And we've spoken about this many, many times over the last year. And I think that Frax is definitely passing all the tests that are being thrown at it. And I won't be surprised if they have a very big role to play, not only on their own, but also with other stablecoin issuers, whether those stablecoin issuers are Japanese yen, euro, or whatever the case might be. What's interesting about this, very interesting, which is not being spoken about by many people, is that the Japanese yen, and more importantly, Japan, is very much about to legalize the trade of cryptocurrencies into the stablecoin space. So there is regulation that's coming in very soon. I think it's coming in at the end of March, where law has been passed that stablecoins in the Japanese market can be issued. So here we have America on the one side who are saying we need to do a whole lot more stricter measures. We can speculate as to why that is the case. And then you've got Japan as essentially one of the superpowers saying we're going to allow this. And how does that now play into the crypto space where the US dollar is actually a no-go? I think there's going to be a really interesting market for non-US dollar stable coins. We've said this before. We've worked with projects that engage with, kind of like the Forex aspect of things. I think the stablecoin market will very much move away from the US dollar just purely because it has to, and it will be forced to.
Yeah, I agree. I think the stablecoin market will get smarter as well.
It's already getting smarter, and that's what algos do, right? Algorithmic stablecoins do exactly that, Dan. They really force you to come up with ways that allow for the power of money to transcend a bank and all that kind of stuff. So I really like what's happening in the space. the big challenge with Frax right now is that I think it's underpinned, or it's collateral based very strongly on the USDC, and they will have to relook at that. But we know that their over collateralized principle works, and it has stood the test of time. Just something coming back to what it is that we were chatting about a little while ago around USDC and your kind of like theory around what role the USDC has to play. Myself, Ben, and Captain Rational had a stream several weeks ago where we actually spoke about how USDC is positioning itself within the whole stablecoin space. The Fed, right, cannot issue central bank stablecoins out of their camp. They need a third party to do that on their behalf. That's just the way that the Fed works. It's the way money works in the States and everywhere else, really. And there was a theory that was passed, I think, by Ben, and we discussed it, that perhaps USDC will be that issuer of the central bank's digital currency. So let's see. I mean, it was a pretty wild theory. In terms of what's playing out right now, that might land up being the case, but definitely something to keep an eye on in terms of where we're going with this, and how money is going to work in the digital space.
Just going on to I guess keeping on the topic of stablecoins, just had a notification from Whale Alert, and 131.7 million USD, sorry, BUSD, had just been burnt at the Paxos Treasury. Very interesting to see what they're doing, where they keep burning a lot of BUSD.
I don't actually know enough about the minting and the burning process, especially when they're burning, and what brings that about. I mean, it's definitely something that needs to be researched, and I think it will be something that I will land up going to research anyways because of what's happening in the space. So we'll get back to you. Well, I'll get back to you on that.
Do you know much about Curve?
In terms of what? In terms of Curve?
Well, your boy Justin's son ate a fat bag yesterday, and his wallet hadn't really been doing much.
700K.
Yeah, 700 mate, 700 G's is a big bag. And then puts it into a Curve Convex thing. And his wallet had been inactive. And then there was word on the street that Binance had started to mint TUSD as well.
So I wouldn't be surprised that if that comes down to votes and gauges, and then obviously maybe he wants to bring about some kind of a change within the ecosystem to suit his desires. I mean, that's what my knee-jerk reaction is. Beyond that, I wouldn't know why he would do that. I don't know enough about the ecosystem to pass comment on that. Should be having something with Noah and Ben next week, and maybe I can ask Noah, because Noah, Captain Rational, knows, he's a CRV junkie. He loves the space. It's become his bread and butter. He does his once a week click on emissions, and that's how he pays his bills.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah,
very
so I think that's a really good question, and I think that brings us on to the next topic, and that is something that we've covered quite extensively, and going off kind of script here, because it's not something that we chatted about before today's show, is that the importance of knowing what's going on in the market. And we obviously look at news, we obviously have crypto Twitter, we have our community, but there really is no substitute to the power of being able to track the smart money. There's a reason why businesses like Nansen and Masari and many others are doing what it is that they're doing. And, this open ledger system affords us the luxury and the privilege of being able to see what the smart money is doing. And I know, Dan, that's something that you've been very passionate about. I've always loved, tracking wallets as well. But you've taken it to a whole new level, and I just find that space to be really fascinating, and the decisions that you can make around that.
Yeah, what you need to do with smart money is as soon as a smart wallet apes, it's already too late, because they obviously know something about Summit, but you can capture potentially some of the trade. And if you're in the right if you set things up properly for yourself, and if you're in the right other Telegram groups that are following other wallets, you'll see like a whole world just kind of like open up before your eyes. It really is truly amazing. But the kind of like the strategy that I found working for me is literally like split everything up, have your like 3 or 4 favorites, see what they're doing whilst keeping an eye on other big wallets. And then if you are copy trading, you know, obviously do your own diligence and all that kind of jazz. But then, yeah, just make a decision on that.
I think what would be really cool, you know, from a blockmates perspective, is for us to actually start, like collectively as a community, start, you know, doing this kind of thing, you know, like monitoring what wallets are doing. I know that a lot of the guys already do it individually. I mean, you do a lot of it, I do a bit, and I know there's a couple of guys within the blockmates community who do the same thing. I reckon we need to bring everyone together and start comparing notes. We don't do it enough, I don't think. So let's see how that works out, and we can kind of bring it up again and see whether we actually get any traction around that in between being so damn busy. Yeah,
because my new trading goal now is I want to trade my way to a DGen ape without feeling like, oh god, I've just spent an arm and a leg on a PFP. That's my goal.
That's cool. I got one this week, and I'm really stoked that I got one. I've been wanting to get one for ages, and I had a couple of good trades, and I did exactly that.
Bro, yours looks exactly like you. It is the epitome of you. That is your out of all like 10,000 bajillion DGen apes, that is 100% you. And the reason it took you so long to buy it is because it wasn't there. Like this one just, and I know from the conversation we have on Discord, this one spoke to you. You're like, damn, what about this? What about this? You're like, nope, got this. That's you, man.
Yeah, cool. I'm stoked. And it's like, it really is like, you know, it's quite strange. Like, once again, tapping into the psychological aspect of things, how, you know, we gravitate as human beings within, you know, like a clique and being a part of a community. And it's like something definitely shifted. And I know this sounds so bloody silly, but it's like something definitely shifted buying the ape. But it wasn't necessarily the fact that money was spent around it. It's really wasn't that. There was kind of like, okay, I'm buying into this subculture, this kind of like belief system that's in place. And we do it all the time. You know, you buy a bag or something, you in many ways buying into something. You have a thesis around it. You know, I think a lot of times, well, from my perspective anyways, and I know from a lot of the guys that I speak to, like there's a thesis. It's kind of like, why am I doing this? Like I'm doing this because, whether the thesis is because everyone else is doing it, cool, that's fine as well. Well, it isn't, because you're more than likely going to get wrecked, but there's a thesis. And I think with profile pics and particularly NFTs, and that thesis is that we attribute value not only to the image itself, but also to the community that's there, obviously. And then what does that community actually bring you? It brings you recognition, which was really cool. Like from an ego perspective, it was like, hey, I'm being recognized. Like people actually are recognizing something that I've invested in. And then from that point onwards, you get all the positive stuff, which I've really enjoyed. Like something definitely did shift because of that. And it was definitely worth the money, and it was definitely worth the wait. And I can't really describe it. It's pretty cool.
Yo, take this. So if you've been following like the Ape Enclosure, you'll know that we've brought a new one home. Now I'm going to quickly, for those watching, I'm going to flick my profile picture to the Ape Enclosure ape, and it's just loading now. And there you go. And we've managed to we've done this really well, because we managed to encapsulate what the Ape Enclosure is. And yes, this guy might look like, you know, someone who's going down the bowling alley, or even like the guy at McDonald's that's handing you a filthy Big Mac out of the drive-through window at 4 a.m, because that's the only snacks you can get. But it really does encapsulate the personality of what we're trying to achieve over at the Ape Enclosure. And, you know, I'm looking forward to be able to to get one and have it as like the foursome from, you know, Grant's to yours to the Ape Enclosures to mine. But these DJ apes are hilarious, dude.
They are, and the community is really cool as well. They don't take themselves too seriously, like, you know, other people who try and emulate what the apes are about and what DGens are about. They will not be named on our show. But like I said, you know, it comes down to that emotional connection that you have, and you either, you know, get attracted to cringe or you get attracted to silliness and fun and craziness. And I think that's what the DJ apes do, and you know what that community has done. I think they've done a superb job of not, first of all, taking themselves seriously, and secondly, by just having fun. You know, this is about fun. It's not about wanting to do anything more than that. And I think they've just nailed it completely. And you know, I think it's quite interesting that we've built a brand around like the DJ apes, like that. Also, like, I mean, remember we went to the conference in London, and you know, we were looking at all the media partners and sponsors and the rest of it, because we were media partners at the ZBU Live conference, and we were the only ones who had an NFT up there, and it was the DJ ape. And that was quite a cool moment to actually see that on one of those massive screens. And I think we've done a great job of just kind of embracing the whole thing. And I've never really been into NFTs because I was just so terrible at trading them. I think most people were terrible at trading them and still are. But yeah, I won't be selling this one, no matter what anyone offers me. It's kind of like who I and what I identify with, which is also pretty cool.
Right, should we finish off with a couple of charts?
I want to just go back to the newsletter before we finish. Just one more thing. I think, you know, like just also going into the chart thing, I want to chat about, you know, where the sentiment in the market is lying at the moment, you know, like in terms of potential short bets. And I think you've chatted about it before in the past, and a couple of our friends in the community who have very big bags we haven't spoken about it, but they've just gone about their business, and that's Matic. Matic's obviously did really well in terms of what's culminated over the last sort of 12 to 18 hours. It's one of the big gainers. You know, the biggest gainer is Filecoin, but that's a big question mark. I don't want to get into that. But from a Polygon perspective and Matic, it just seems to continue to drive forward and just be like pretty much a sure bet. Dan, why is that? What's going on there?
So on March 27th, like they finally announced that they're going to be releasing their zk EVM then. So like this is what I mean. Like everyone was like saying the zk narrative is dead, and whether you agree with that or not, you had like yesterday's zkSYNC go live. You've got Matic zk EVM, and then you've got all the other bits and bobs going on. You've also got ETH Denver, where, you know, chances are that Matic are going to be there. Chances are Matic are going to be talking about Summit. And I'm sure that's going to have some kind of effect on price, because obviously not financial advice, blah, blah, blah. But you see a lot at these conferences that as soon as something like gets announced, people are like, oh, buy. And it also just so happens that with Matic, if you actually look at the chart, it has broken out. So, and it's moving up to like $1.50. Apparently. Damn. I puked my bag.
Did you really? Okay.
Yeah, I had a couple of good entries and I sold it at resistance and then just never got back in.
Okay. That's what I was saying early on. It's like it really is a PTSD market right now. It's gone beyond PvP. You're in many ways PvPing with yourself. Just speaking to a bunch of guys that have been really, you know, in the situation where they buy in, like they 2x, they sell, and then they watch a 10x thereafter. And it's just been the norm for so many people where, you know, they're just so stoked to make a 2x, you know. And it's like, I mean, obviously that's amazing. Let's be clear about that. It's amazing to do that. At the same time, there's just so much more there, and they just run for the hills, and then they sit there regretting it and just kind of like going once again to that collective, you know, angst and emotional turmoil, which obviously contributes to what happened to Bitcoin at 25k resistance yesterday. So I'm just finding what's going on in the market at the moment truly fascinating. It's way more fascinating than being in full bear. It's kind of like it's the chop on the way up that kills people. That's what's going on right now.
Mate, it is. And it's the wicks at the top.
Yeah. I want to just also, before we go to charts, I want to just chat about, actually, let's go to charts first. Dan, you can go through some charts, and then I'd like to finish off with some public sales and what's been happening, particularly on Camelot and on Arbitrum. So, yeah, let's move on to charts.
Right, I guess talk of the town. So obviously, like these are my just like personal charts or whatever, where I've like charted a load of whatever on it. So ignore you can ignore the lines. But I'd realized like in my own charting, I'd forgotten like one of the biggest fundamentals, and like I'm a fib trader. I like using fibs. But I forgot about them because I was trying to be cool with like cool indicators, which doesn't work. Now there's one really like base trader. Obviously a lot of these are from buying Beamish. There's one like really good trader that's like, Dan, whenever it hits the 0886, just buy it. But I obviously didn't because I was too scared. But if you'd have bought Matic down here, boom, huge run up. But the Matic chart just generally is looking pretty bullish. We broke out from this area here, so the $1 like 32, and you can see how it's like pushing up. In theory, like the next logical place would be for it to test, you know, this wick here, $1.50. It's both a psychological point plus where there has been a capture of liquidity up here before. Volumes pushing up, which is cool. So yeah, so Matic generally is looking bullish. I don't have a bag because I'm a fool, and I puked it and I didn't rebuy in because I'm a fool. Bitcoin. Let's do Bitcoin. See what story is here. Wow, look at that. You can see with Bitcoin here, we'll just use the daily because it's a little bit easier. You can see this wick here, filthy wick, absolutely wrecked the shorters who thought going short at 24.2 was a good idea. But you can see from this, it's always good to look left because history does repeat. This wick matches this wick. So in my mind now, if we are still in this like bull run or whatever, if we can break above 25.3, then it would make sense that would recover these two vector candles, the pink one as well as the red one here. And essentially all a vector candle is it shows a highlight of where the market maker has made a big move. And you can see it puked the market maker, pushed the markets down here. I really puked it. Same with these green ones. That's where they rip it up to the upside. They build their shorts on the way up, rip it down. But Bitcoin, as of right now, is it a trap? Maybe, because we've got this little area, here to test, and then even down in this zone.
It has to retest that, right? I mean, yeah. From a charting perspective right now, we need to basically go and retest between 22 and 23, right?
And if you're using fibs, a lot of the times with these massive green daily vector candles, they retrace 50% of the move. So 50% of the move sees us at 23.2.
Gotcha.
So we're getting there.
Yeah.
But let's see.
Okay. Interesting.
Wash.
Very interesting. Just to finish off today on a positive note. I mean, not that our show today hasn't been positive, but on an even more positive note is D² Finance sold out of their public launch in less than 5 seconds. In fact, it was 4 seconds, but let's just say less than 5. So they use Camelot. So that's the narrative right now, is that why go through the painstaking process of trying to convince a whole lot of VCs and funders and angel investors to give you some money so that you can take your project to fruition, spend several months doing all of that stuff, when you've managed to bootstrap your project up until a point where you actually have a product that can go, but you need a couple of $1 million to do that and to take it to market. Best thing to do is to essentially sit down with a launch pad like Camelot on Arbitrum and ask them to do a public launch for you. You put it to market. If your tokenomics are good around your public launch, and also in general your tokenomics are good, you will raise a substantial amount of money. There've been several success stories. We've got Trove that's coming out from Nitro today, I think later in a few hours. So that's happening. Then we've got Factor DAO at the beginning of the week. I put up a thread on Twitter, so just go and do a search. You'll find the rest of them. I'm not going to give it all to you on a silver platter. You need to go and find it as well. So I really like what the Camelot guys are doing from a launchpad perspective. There's definitely a lot to be said for fair launches. Obviously, bots are a problem, but I think the Camelot guys are managing that quite well, it seems. So, yeah.
Basically, just pay attention. And on that bombshell, have a great weekend.
Don't forget to like and subscribe, please. We do appreciate it. The algo likes it. Yeah, it's quite easy to keep us motivated, guys. We can bring you alpha. We can bring you info. We can bring you news. Give us a like and subscribe. Don't forget to subscribe to our newsletter. It's free. There's a ton of alpha in there. I mean, Dan called Grail and Camelot.
I am seething. I called freaking Camelot whilst it was like in development. Freaking development. If I'd have just paid attention, Christ almighty.
Yeah. And there's a lot of that going on in the newsletter. I think I've received a couple of messages over the last few weeks where people are like, thanks to the newsletter, like you've just given me such great insight. So there's a lot of value there. We're not trying to sell you anything. We just want to get our community numbers up so that we can do more stuff. It's really is a positive feedback loop. So we do appreciate it. Anyways, take it easy, everyone. Keep it tidy. Don't let the emotional side of things get the better of you. Remember, get your thesis together. Be clear on what you're doing. And yeah, take it easy. Have a good weekend.